His roommates were harvesting from him. He lives in Los Angeles now. He has the wildest story about his roommates, like they were practicing blood magic. So in 2022, he joins a Facebook housing group. Okay, he needs a new place. He's already living in Los Angeles at this point. He finds a post for a house in Mount Washington, Los Angeles, and the couple that is posting it is a couple that's in their mid-40s. Joni is the woman, Devin is the man, and they post this. We have a room open in our peaceful older home in Mount Washington. You'll be sharing the house with just me and my partner. We are an artistic, nature-oriented couple and keep a quiet, energetically balanced space. Rent is $800 a month, available now. One mindful shared meal each week is a house tradition. Looking for someone grounded with a good, curious energy. So he DMs them immediately when he sees it because he needed a place fast. The rent was cheap and it was the area he wanted to be. And they respond right away. They're like, we'd love to meet you. He goes over there. They introduce themselves. They are cute in a weird, earthy way. Joni is a phlebotomist. She draws blood from people. And Devin is an herbalist, but he doesn't really work. He just makes these like plant-based tinctures. And then he sells them at local farmers markets. He said they were basically just crunchy hippies. Like they weren't married because they believed that marriage was a societal construct invented by the government to bind people together and thus keep them in line. And they were vegan. They believed in ley lines and energy constructs, but he kind of liked it. He thought it was a little bit refreshing and very different from a lot of his friends that he spent time with. He tours the house. It's very nicely decorated. Boho decor. He said definitely one of them had money, although he doesn't know who. Very clean. Even though they were weird in a cute way. They show him their room, their bathroom. Then they show him the third bedroom, which is his bedroom. And then the second bedroom is used as an office. He's like, it's fine. I would love to take it. And Devin kind of like laughs and slaps him on the back. And he's like, well, the house chooses the people, so not so fast. And he looks at him kind of weird. And Devin's like, oh, no, it's okay. Like, we're just going to talk it over and then we'll let you know. So he goes home. Later on, they call him. They're like, hey, yeah, we'd love to have you move in. Seemed like we got along great. So he moves in. And as he's moving all his stuff into the third bedroom, he notices there's a padlock on the outside of the door. And he thinks this is weird because it's on the outside of the door. So he's like, hey, what's going on with this? And they were like, oh, actually, we didn't used to live here. We just rented the house out as an Airbnb during the pandemic. And that's where we stored all of the supplies. And he's like, okay, that makes sense. It's a Saturday. So after he's done unpacking his truck, he's like hanging out with them. They're all having some wine and he's getting to know them a little bit better. And the topic of their weekly dinners comes up. And basically they tell him that he's not invited, not at least until they know him better. And it's actually just a private dinner that they have with friends, but don't worry, they'll leave him a plate. So he was like, okay, well, that makes sense. And they're like, yeah, so we'll need you out of the house every single Thursday night when we have these dinners. And he's like, yeah, I can just stay in my room or whatever if I'm home. And they're like, no, we need you out of the house. Like, these are very private dinners. And he thought that was strange. And that was a red flag because he was like, they didn't say anything about this when I was agreeing to rent the house, but now he's not going to throw away the lease over this. So he's just like, okay, whatever, I'll be out of the house on Thursdays. So the next week, the first Thursday, he goes out when they're having this dinner and he stays out pretty late. Everybody's already in bed. He comes home. There's a note on the kitchen table and it says, there's a plate for you in the fridge. He opens the fridge and he's pretty intoxicated and he looks at it and so he eats it standing over the kitchen sink or whatever. And there's also a glass of red wine in the fridge with a little note that says for him. And he thinks that's kind of weird because red wine's not supposed to go in the fridge, but he's like, whatever, nice gesture. So he drinks that. He wakes up in the morning in his bed, completely hungover, sees that he left the door to his bedroom open and he's got this massive nosebleed like all over his sheets. He's not feeling great, but he still has to work. He works remote. So he tries to log into his computer. There's some lighting issues or I don't know, something's going on. So he goes into the office in the second bedroom where they said that he could use it if he ever needed to. And as he's in his meeting, he notices there's a mini fridge in the corner of the room and he looks at it and he notices there's a padlock on that too. And he's just like, okay, whatever. Thinks it has something to do with Devin's like plant tinctures that he sells at the farmer's market, right? There's also a locked file cabinet. Whatever, none of his business. Finishes out his workday. Following week, same thing. Thursday dinner, he goes out, whatever. They have their dinner. He comes home. They leave him a plate, leave him a cold glass of red wine. He eats it. Wakes up in the morning, nosebleed again. He's like, okay, this is weird. He's not somebody that had frequent nosebleeds, so he's just like, what is going on? Also, his bedroom door was open and he wasn't that intoxicated that night. So he was like, I know that I closed the door. So he goes out in the main part of the house, finds Devin, who's still home working on some tincture. And he's like, Devin, what's up with the food you guys gave me last night? Like, what was it? Because last week I had a nosebleed and this week I have a nosebleed. I think I might have an allergy to something. And Devin gives him some weird excuse about sometimes carnivores eat vegan food and they have similar experiences because of the iron levels in the vegetables. Like, I don't know. Either way, this guy's like, well, maybe that's true. Like, I haven't eaten that much vegan food, but he still thinks it's an allergy that's causing these nosebleeds. And he's about to go back in his room and Devin's like, hey, what'd you do with the tissues? And he's like, what tissues? And he's like, from your nosebleed. And he's like, oh, I just threw them in the trash. And he's like, oh, no. Joni's like super weird about that. She's a phlebotomist. Like, she's really weird about biohazards. Give them to me. I'll dispose of them properly. And so he's like, okay. So Devin comes in with some glass jars and he insists that he puts all of his nose tissues in the glass jars. And he said that should have been a red flag too. But again, like, these people were like very like earthy, very hippie. So he was just like, okay, like, this checks out. So then he starts feeling really, really sick in the house. And he actually thought that he had COVID. Like, he was just exhausted and he couldn't figure out what was going on with him. He gets a test, it's negative, but he's just not right. He's not himself. And there was this girl that he was talking to. She lived in San Diego, so he's thinking he's going to go to San Diego for a couple days to see her and just get some time away by the ocean. So he goes, spends like 3 days with her, and by the end of his trip, he's feeling like 100% better. And he's just like, man, I haven't felt this good since I moved into that house. He comes back. Joni and Devin ask him all about his trip. They're like, hey, we were thinking about it. We think that we know you well enough. You can come to one of our dinners now. And he's like, cool. But he noticed in the couple days after he got back that they had like a bunch of bandages all over them. Joni had a few in the webbing between her fingers, and Devin had one on his neck. So that Thursday, he sits down, they all have dinner, some of their friends come over, and their friends are strange. Like, these friends made Joni and Devin look like normal people to him. There's 3 other people, and one of the people walks in and just says, oh, I see the energy of the house is off tonight. And he looks around, he's like, are they talking about me? And they all just kind of like laugh it off, and everybody sits down. He starts to try to make normal conversation. He's like, so what does everybody do? And everybody just looks at him weird. And then the person that said, oh, the balance is off tonight, looks at Joni and says, so, spring equinox tonight? And he has absolutely no idea what's going on because this is in the middle of winter. Like, he said he wasn't into astrology, but he definitely knew it was not the spring equinox. So Joni's like, yeah, spring equinox. And she runs off and she comes back and she has a glass jar. And he thinks at first that it's wine inside the jar because it's dark red. And she pours just a tiny bit in everybody's cup. And nobody takes a sip. They're all just staring at him. And so he looks at it and he picks it up and he tastes it, and it's not wine. He said it tasted like blood. So he puts it back down and he says, what is this? And Joni says, I think that we should introduce you to Viviccraft now. And he says, what is Viviccraft? And she says, it's biological extension through vital offering, aka preservation through the living, aka drinking blood. She explains that they don't believe in immortality, that it's not a cult, it's just a practice, and it's not illegal, it's just underground. She says people have been doing it for centuries. It keeps them tethered to the earth, it keeps them young, and they do it by either ingesting or taking it in other ways. And he is just stunned. He's like, have you been taking my blood while I sleep? And they're like, oh, no, and everybody laughs. They say, it's willing donors only, we'll show you. And Joni goes out and she goes into the office and she unlocks the locked file cabinet and she comes out with what looks like a scrapbook. And in the scrapbook are dozens of pages of Polaroids of photos of people with notes like blood turned, blood too acidic, used in midsummer blend. And then Devin gets excited and he's like, come here, I'll show you everything we've got. We've got a cure for everything. And he unlocks the locked mini fridge, and this guy is just absolutely horrified to see that there's at least 20 jars filled with blood. And those are all labeled too, things like Devin's 37th cut or Orion's belt. In the file cabinets, they had notebooks full of dosage notes, draw schedules, symptoms, and things to expect. And he's just absolutely horrified, and all he can say is, are you sure you didn't use any of mine? You didn't take anything from me? And Devin laughs and he says, well, maybe from the tissue. And everybody else laughs too, but he said he still doesn't know if they were joking. He said they did not pressure him to drink anymore, to do anything else. They told him that the practice was 100% voluntary. They told him that there are certain days that call for larger amounts, but that most days they just take very small amounts to see very beneficial results. And they tried to sell him on the idea that if he started taking it, even in small amounts every day, he would see incredible results. He did not. I asked him how long he stayed in the house after he found that out, and he said as soon as he found a new place, he was out. So after he finished telling me this story, I was like, well, what else do you know about Viviccraft? Like, is it real? Is it something these people made up? And he was like, I don't know. I've tried to look into it. Couldn't find anything. He said he thinks that he reacted so calmly in the moment because he was in so much shock from being fed that or given that to drink, but now knowing that, he wants to throw up when he thinks about it. He said he was totally cool with me sharing this story, although he doesn't have social media. He won't be seeing this video. He won't be in the comments. And I was like, well, what's your takeaway from this? Or what do you want people to know? And he said, these things are real. People actually practice this. So yeah, I have no words. Keep sending me your spooky, scary stories.